Hi, everybody. I hope you're having a good Christmas if you're just joining. I had some time today, so I thought I would hop on and say Merry Christmas to everyone and maybe do some low key drills. Um, if you're just joining me for the first time, I'm a third year law student. I took the LSAT in 2020 and I took it once and scored 170. And then I got a full tuition scholarship to a top 20 school. I like tutoring the LSAT, but I just don't have as much time for it. And I'll be working at a firm next year in New York City, so I definitely won't have time for it then. Um, so I'm trying out doing some LSAT tutoring or seeing if I could do like sessions or classes on TikTok. So if you're just joining, welcome. If you're studying for the LSAT right now, let me know and feel free to ask any like law school or LSAT questions you have. I decided to do a little fun like Christmas. Well, fun is used like loosely here. But I decided to do a little Christmas themed LSAT logic. So Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays to everyone coming in. If you're just joining for the first time, I am a third year law student. I took the LSAT in 2020 when it had logic games on it. And I scored 170. I only took it once. I had got a full tuition scholarship to a top 20 school, and now I am in my last year of law school. Um, I love tutoring the LSAT. I like coming up with like explanations and examples. I just don't have as much time for it, and I definitely won't have as much time for it next year because I'll be working at a firm in New York City. Um, so I'm trying out bringing some of my LSAT knowledge here. But let me know, answer in the chat and let me know what you think about these questions and how you feel about necessary and sufficient conditions. I know that for some people it comes like easier than others. Um, so if it would be helpful for me to post more examples of necessary and sufficient conditions, definitely let me know. And thank you for the likes. If you like this or if my profiles help, definitely please like and share. And if you're just joining and you, if you're a regular, you've heard me say this 100 times. Eventually I'll write it on my screen, but I am a third year law student. I took the LSAT in 2020 when it still had logic games on it, and I took it once and scored 170, and then I was able to get a full tuition scholarship to a top 20 school. I'm in my last year of law school. I really like tutoring the LSAT. I think it's fun. I like answering questions and coming up with examples, but I just don't have as much time for it. And I'll be working at a firm in New York City next year, so definitely won't have time for it. So I'm trying out some TikTok things. So if you've looked at my profile, I'm real. And please follow because I really want to make sure that I'm posting things that are helpful, and following just helps me. And please like too. But let me know if you're studying for the LSAT right now. Feel free to ask any LSAT or law school questions you have in the chat. Also, I have this little Christmas themed logic drills up on this screen. So feel free to try to answer those too. I tried to make them not so obvious. So let me know what you think about them. But yeah, if you have any LSAT questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat. And I hope you're having a good Christmas. I figured this would be a good way because if you have the December test up, you might be feeling like anxious or like you need to study every single day. But I always tell my students, you can like doing drills also counts as practicing. So I figured that this could be an easy way for some people to like feel like they did some LSAT stuff. I didn't have a tutor for the LSAT. I studied on my own. I studied from March to August, and I just used the Power Score books. I just opened up and I recommend the Power Score books. I really like them. I like the way they're structured. Um, and I just opened the book from like page one and had a blank notebook and took notes on the whole chapter, and then just didn't move on until I was ready for, until I made sure I understood everything in that chapter. It took forever, but going slow is definitely worth it with the LSAT. So if you're feeling burnt, well, if you're feeling frustrated or like burnt out with LSAT, 100% you should know that's normal. Like if you talk to any lawyer and you ask and you tell them you're studying for the LSAT, you'll instantly get like so much sympathy because every single lawyer knows how awful it is. Even like when I tell my friends I'm an LSAT tutor, and when I worked at a firm this summer, I told the partners I was an LSAT tutor. They look at me like I'm crazy because they're like, "Why would you do that?" So it is extremely hard, and I'm saying like even partners, like I'm working in big law, like partners at these big firms that represent like Google and Apple. Like I told them I was an LSAT tutor, and they were like, "Why would you do that?" So if it feels hard, it's because it is. And people say it's like worse than law school exams. So maybe that brings you comfort, maybe it doesn't. It also makes you just smarter. Like this logic applies everywhere. So I always tell my students, bring your logical reasoning skills over to reading comprehension. Um, I saw a video where someone said like, do not do that. I mean, every tutor has their own advice. That's crazy. You 100% should bring your logical reasoning skills over to reading comp. You want to be looking for conclusion words like therefore. You want to look for premise words. You want to notice when you're reading if you see if then statements. All of those things matter in reading comprehension, just like they matter in logical reasoning, and they get asked about just in different ways. So definitely, if you're feeling intimidated by reading comp, try thinking of it as like a longer logical reasoning section, because they're still just testing you on the structure of the passage. They're always asking not what the author wrote, but how the author wrote it. So you want to pay attention to that. And if you're liking this live, please like and share. And thank you for the roses and the likes. I downloaded TikTok literally just to make my account. So I still don't really understand all of these things, but thank you. It definitely helps. And if you're liking this weekend, I'm going to go over section 2 of Law Hub Test 158. I do plenty of lives like for like free, just hopping on, do random ones. But for that one, I think I made it $5 just because I'll be like in full tutor mode. But I'm going to do that Saturday at 1 Eastern. So if you wanted to register for that, it's on my profile. And I've been suggesting to people that you like take section 2 of test 158 on your own, and then like we could review it together. Of course, that's not a must, just a suggestion. But I'm gonna do that on Saturday, and it'll be like more structured than my lives. Because if you come to my lives, you know I get distracted very easily, so sometimes I have to have like supervision in the chat. But yeah, for the paid one, it'll be like a lot more tutoring. And thank you again, Miss Bird. Yeah, thank you for the likes. And I hope you guys are all having a good day today. I didn't actually know if anyone would be on tonight, but if you're just joining, I'm a third-year law student. I took the LSAT in 2020 when it had logic games on it. I took it once and I scored 170, and then I got a full tuition scholarship to a top 20 school. And now I have 1 semester of law school left, which is crazy. Really crazy. I've been tutoring the LSAT ever since I took it. And I really like it. It's fun for me. But I just don't have time for it anymore, doing full sessions. So I'm trying out like doing TikTok, and I also know like I couldn't afford me. Like I charge $100 to $180 an hour. Like I couldn't afford me, and I couldn't now or when I was studying. So I figure like if there's ways to make it more accessible, like why not? And it's easier for me too. Yes, Miss Bird, I knew people would be studying on Christmas, and if they weren't, I knew they'd be feeling guilty about not studying on Christmas. So I decided to maybe do a little live where I put some drills up, so you can feel like you did a little bit of studying, even if you didn't get to. And I used to do this all the time when I was studying for the LSAT. Some people may say it's not healthy. Everyone just operates differently. I really like just like whenever I liked having a lot of LSAT apps on my phone that had like questions, or like Quizlet has a bunch of good like, well, I don't know how about good, but a bunch of like LSAT like flashcard packs. I think like Test Max, LSAT Max, I think that's what they're called. They have an app that has like daily questions. Um, I really liked when I was studying being able just to like pull out my phone and like answer a couple questions or feel like I reviewed something. Um, and all of that is just as important as like practicing the actual test. So, I mean, if you're here listening to me just ramble about the LSAT, then you obviously know that because you are doing way more than like 97% of LSAT students do. And thank you all for joining and liking. And definitely, if you're studying for the LSAT, check out my profile. I'm an LSAT tutor. I just don't have the time for one-on-one sessions anymore, but I'm practicing doing lives. So the more encouragement I get, the more lives I'll do, and the less encouragement I get, the less motivated I will be. So that's me definitely fishing for likes, but it's also very true. Um, but I'm really happy to take this break too because I'm working on a paper that I have to finish. Um, a little life hack for law school to remember in your second and third years. If you want to take a class that's less work, I suggest trying to do like an independent study, which is just basically a research paper or like a law article paper with a professor. And all that means is just like you write and you send them a draft and they give you feedback. And you can write something publishable and get credit for it. At least that's what I'm trying to do. Um, and this is way, like, if you're studying for the LSAT, this doesn't need to be on your radar, but it is something that when you start registering for classes in your 2L and 3L, you might remember. So I'm just planting it there. But if you're studying for the LSAT or have any LSAT or law school questions, definitely let me know. Um, I I studied for the LSAT from like March to August. Um, and they don't really tell you how stressful it is studying for the LSAT. Like they say it's hard, but like you think you know what that means, but you don't really know what it means until you start. Like I've had guy students cry, I've had young students cry, I've had older students cry, I've cried. There's plenty of my students who have not cried. But I'm just saying all levels of frustration are like totally warranted because and you guys should look it up, but the LSAT, they've literally done research studies where it changes your brain structure, like it changes your neuron pathways or whatever. So you feel like your head hurts and you feel like you're tired at the end of the day, yeah, like you should be because you're literally changing the way you think. And it makes you so much smarter, like just out in the world. Like I get texts from old students when they see like LSAT questions out in the real world. And I love getting that. And you'll notice it a lot more. Um, I swear I became better at dating after I took the LSAT. Like no one was pulling anything on me. So it 100% like if it feels frustrating, it is frustrating. But if it's worth it, if it's still like interesting to you and it feels good when you like finally get something, then it's worth it to keep it up. Jackie Croft, I would be a crier for sure. That's so funny, Jackie. I totally was a crier. It was not, it was so bad. Even people would be like, why are you doing this? But then I'd be like, I know I can do it. Um, but yeah, definitely. Um, I actually don't understand the people who don't cry. Like, I think one thing that LSAT is, and Jay, I actually think this will hopefully make you feel better because um, the LSAT, it is built to make you feel like you're not smart enough. Um, like I didn't like my mom. She didn't graduate high school. Like she had a GED. Um, like I didn't know any law stuff until I mean until like the LSAT basically. So I know if I can do it, there's literally no reason anyone else can't. But I think what the test is and is it's really a test of frustration. So like when I say that, I mean Like, I have a friend who I call her like a baby genius. And if she's listening, she'll know who I'm talking about. But and when she was little, she was like in a research study. They like followed her around, but she took the LSAT, and she did. I think she got like something somewhere in the 150s or 160s, like low 160s, something she wasn't happy with. She took it without studying. Um, and so she started studying for 2 weeks, and then she she just gave up, and she was like, "Never mind, like I'm not doing it." And she's like, "I'm sick of getting questions wrong," and she's like, "It's too frustrating and just not worth it." And like she has like a graduate degree from an Ivy League school. She 100% could have learned it, but for her, it wasn't worth the frustration. Um, but for me, for some reason, it was worth the frustration. And part of that frustration is like finding explanations that make sense. So when like for my students, sometimes I'll explain something to them, and they'll look at me like I like have five heads. And they want to be lawyers too, so they'll argue with me. And thank you guys for joining and liking. And they'll want to argue with me. So then I'll try another explanation. Sometimes I go through like 4 or 5 explanations until I get to one where they're finally like, oh, that's why I was wrong. They're lucky because they have me. If you're studying on your own, you have to be the one to go and find those 4 or 5 explanations. And that's the only way that I learned when I was studying on my own. Like, I would literally be Googling, like, in quotation marks, like, parts of questions, and I'd be on, like, the 5th page of a Google search, like, looking to see, did anyone have this exact same question as me? Trying to make it make sense. So if you're feeling like the LSAT is, like, feeling like you're not smart enough for the LSAT, I promise you, it's not that. It's just you need the right explanation. I really recommend Power Score. I know some people say, I mean, I use Power Score with my students. I will say they have these little workbooks. I don't think the Power Score workbooks are that good. They don't really add that much. They just have practice exams that you could get in Law Hub. But the big books, I think, for Power Score are good. Just Rennie. I really like the Power Score books. And I'll let other people in the chat give you recommendations too. I'm not as hip. I know lots of people like the loophole. I need to look into the loophole. But my recommendation, just Rennie, is Power Score. But I know lots of people also like LSAT Demon too. So I need to look into the others. But Power Score I like. Yeah, Phoenix, you'll have dreams where you wake up doubting your LSAT journey. You'll have dreams in law school where you wake up like doubting your law school journey. I think one of the things that I also think the LSAT is test of is like how much you can like reflect. Like basically like, are you willing to admit that you made mistakes? Because if you're feeling frustrated, or like you're not improving, that means you need to like take a section and look at the questions that you missed and focus on understanding those question types. So like when I have students who are feeling burnt out or they're like stuck in a plateau, it's always because unless it's timing, it's always because there's still more to learn. And if you're listening to me ramble, you're learning. That's why if you look at my profile, like I have all these like little short examples that are just like teaching the concepts. And that's because I like to, when I work with students, like we might go 2 weeks or 3 weeks before we even see a full LSAT question, because I really like to build a really strong foundation, so then we can just worry about like understanding the language, because they write it on purpose to be so confusing. They know exactly what tricks your brain will play. They know your brain will switch those 2 words. They know your brain will overlook the word most when it's put in between these 2 type of words. So you just have to remember that it's literally a game and they are purposely making it difficult. Like, it is a hard test because it's a very hard test. And I always say it's like a special person who can write the LSAT. I don't think I would like writing the LSAT, but I do have fun coming up with like my own explanations. And again, if you have any LSAT questions, let me know in the chat, and please like and share. And if you're just joining, I am doing I'm doing a session on Saturday, and I'm gonna go over section 2 of test 158. And I've been telling people that you might want to take it on your own and then review with me on Saturday. And so if you want to register for that, you can like do that on my page. And I'll be in like full tutor mode then. But yeah, I think it'll be, but you have to have access to Law Hub. So just make sure that you have access to Law Hub because I can't really show the pictures. The questions. But I can show my whiteboard and me working through them. And let me know if you have any questions about these little Christmas themed examples I came up with. I think some of them are easy. I think the ones that are probably the hardest are the ones like number 3. A store can stay open on Christmas only if it has enough staff. Because usually we think of if then, if, and I wrote it at the top. Yeah, if being sufficient, then being necessary, but only if is actually necessary. Yeah, just Rennie. Yeah, that's maybe I would be good at writing the LSAT because that's exactly why I wrote that. But yeah, so if we were to say like number 3, if we were to put it in an if-then form, it would be like, if the store is open on Christmas, then it has enough staff. So it's required that it has enough staff to be open on Christmas. And I really like to get my students comfortable with like rewording sentences in different ways because that will unlock so much of the LSAT for you. If you get comfortable like understanding different ways to recognize the conditions and just to reword sentences. I know that sounds silly, but it's just not something that I don't know. I didn't really think. I didn't think of any of these logical concepts until I started studying for the LSAT. But I definitely noticed with my students, the ones who take time to learn how to reword like sentences in different ways and understand the inferences, have an easier time when they get to the questions. And if you're just joining, I am a third-year law student. I took the LSAT in 2020. I scored 170. I do need to write this down. I just don't have a thing to do it. I was able to get a full tuition scholarship from a top 20 school. And now I have 1 semester of law school left. So if you have any law school questions, let me know. I worked in the admissions office in my law school between my first and second summer. So I can, and I also know like, I help my students with personal statements too. But yeah, so if you have admissions questions too, and I catch them in the chat, I can answer. I also set up a little hotline. Ray, I haven't gone over it yet. I was actually just waiting for people to talk about it in the chat. But I can definitely start going over one. First I'll talk about like the 2 hints I put. So these are the 2 things that I tell my students to think about when they think about sufficient and necessary conditions. 1, if you can tell what's required, then you want to think about what's necessary condition. 2, if it's not word standing out to you what's required, then see if you can turn it into an if-then statement. So for number one, the first rule that I'd probably give you is any sentence that starts with to is like 99.9999% of the time going to be conditional language because it's going to give you a requirement. Hi, Galavies. And thank you for the likes, guys. If this is helpful, please like and share. So if we look at question one or sentence one, it says to attend the Christmas party, you must bring a gift. So if I'm thinking about what's required to attend the Christmas party? Bringing a gift. So our necessary condition is bringing a gift. Our sufficient condition is attending the Christmas party. And so what does that mean? That means if I tell you I went to the Christmas party, you know I brought a gift because the only way I have to bring a gift to get into the Christmas party. There's no world from this rule where I get into the party without bringing a gift. So the sufficient condition tells you everything. It tells you the whole story. So you know, if I tell you I went to the Christmas party, you know two things. You know I went to the Christmas party, and you know I brought a gift. Now, this might be a little bit clunky, but let's say I just tell you I bring a gift, which is a necessary condition. I might not still get into the Christmas party. What if it's like a super elite exclusive Christmas party and like I'm not on the guest list? I might bring a gift, but that doesn't guarantee me a spot at the Christmas party. And so the necessary condition, and this is what trips people up, the necessary condition by itself does not tell you anything really. The necessary condition doesn't mean anything by itself. The sufficient condition tells you the whole story. And so if we look at number two, like number two says, anyone who works on Christmas Day receives holiday pay. So this means, because if you look at it, it doesn't stand out to me. It doesn't stand out that there's like something required. So I'm going to try putting it into an if-then. So if you work on Christmas Day, then you receive holiday pay. So working on Christmas Day is the sufficient condition. If I tell you that I worked on Christmas Day, you know the whole story. You also know that I got holiday pay. But if I tell you that I get holiday pay, you don't know which holiday that was for. If I say I worked for Christmas, you know I got holiday pay for Christmas. If I just tell you I got holiday pay, that doesn't necessarily mean that I worked on Christmas. I could have gotten holiday pay for another holiday. Yeah, and so again, the necessary condition by itself doesn't mean anything. And if this is helpful, please like and share, and let me know if you're studying for the LSAT right now. And if you have any questions about the LSAT or law school, let me know. I'm going to go over the section 2 of test 158 on Saturday. There's a link on my, just like in my bio, not in my bio, but on my page. If you want to join that, you can click the link. I made it $5, but I'll be in like full tutor mode. And I've been telling people to do this, if you want, of course, do the section before, and then we can review it together. And it's a good way to think about like the way you thought about the questions, because that's the best way to learn, is to compare like what you were thinking when you were taking the test or doing the question compared to what you're thinking when you realize the correct answer. And then like you have to fill in the gap between those two things. Studying now, planning on taking LSAT in June. Congratulations, right? It's starting, the studying is part. Well, maybe not the hardest, but one of the hard parts. So congratulations on studying and good luck. But if you're here, if you're here listening to me just ramble about the LSAT, then I know anyone listening to me is going to be totally fine, because that means you're obviously willing to learn. The people who struggle with the LSAT are the ones who have a hard time admitting mistakes, which is like my friend. If you were here earlier, I told a story about my friend who's really smart, but she gave up on the LSAT because it was just too frustrating for her. And she doesn't like to be wrong, so that makes a lot of sense. And you would think lawyers are the type of people who always want to be right, but those are actually the worst lawyers to work with. Phoenix, you should. It's a live event. Let me see if I can. I literally downloaded TikTok for this, so I'm still learning some things. Let me see if I can. I think I can put a thingamajig in the chat for it. Let me see. Okay, maybe I can't. Why can't I see it? But Phoenix, it'll be Saturday at 1 Eastern. But I think, oh, no, it doesn't show up on my profile on the computer, which is why I can't. And I'm using my desktop right now. They should make it. Oh, maybe I can. Can I put it in? Sorry, I know I'm talking out loud. I'm literally just learning how to use this stuff. I don't actually know what I'm doing on TikTok. And sorry, Phoenix. Not super helpful. But just remember Saturday 1 Eastern, and you should see me go live. But look back on my profile, because it should be there underneath, right underneath my bio. It should say a live event. And if this was helpful, guys, please like and share. And let me know how your LSAT studying is going, and if you have any LSAT or law school questions. I'm in my 3rd year of law school. I only have 1 semester left, which is crazy. So I can also give some advice about law school too. I'm technically supposed to be writing a paper right now. I'm writing a paper on insurance and AI. A pro tip: if you get really comfortable with AI, you'll be very valuable in law school and legal fields. But AI will never replace lawyers. I think it's just we're starting to be expected to use it. Some clients, and the firm I work at, we represent very big companies. Some clients will, the first thing they require is that you run whatever issue it is through AI first. So instead of having a junior associate working on it, or even a first year, they want it to be run through AI because it takes less time. And in the LSAT, and in law firms, they charge, most of them, the big ones charge most of them in 6-minute increments. So they're just trying, when clients request AI, they just don't want to pay. They want to pay less time. I like Claude when it's to debt collectors. Yeah, you're exactly right, Ray. They still aren't 100% reliable. You're exactly right. I don't think I don't think it just doesn't seem like they'll ever be good enough for us to just blindly trust. Um, that's smart though that you use it for that. Kiki, yes, I can go over 5. So 5 says no employee is scheduled on Christmas unless the store is open. So whenever you see something that's like extreme, so for example, anything that says like no or any, here we have no, and anytime you see unless, then you're going to have necessary and sufficient conditions. So there's a few different ways you can work with unless. I skip those. I skip the ones that most books teach, and I use these 2 hints, and then these usually take care of like all of. I think they take care of almost every conditional sentence. But anyway, so for the necessary condition, that is the thing that's required. So 5 says no employee scheduled on Christmas unless the store is open. So that means that the store needs to be open if someone is scheduled on Christmas. So I might go to my second hint, which is see if you can turn it into an if then. So if an employee is scheduled on Christmas, then the store is open. So it says no employee is scheduled on Christmas unless the store is open. That means the store needs to be open to have anyone scheduled on Christmas. So in this case, our necessary condition is going to be the store being open. The sufficient condition would be an employee is scheduled. So if I tell you an employee is scheduled, you know that the store is open. The flip side of that is the contrapositive, even though they never use the word contrapositive on the LSAT. The contrapositive of that is if the store is not open, then no one is scheduled on Christmas. So if you want like an easy unless equation, you want to, well, actually, I'm not going to do an unless equation right now, but I always tell my students just trying to switch these and change these into if-thens, and then remembering your if is sufficient and your then is necessary. Now you want to be careful if it's like number 3, where it says only if, because that's necessary. But I think doing these steps is one of the cleanest ways to make sure your logic is right. Because you can do the unless equations where you're like negating, like I know there's a lot of formulas and those are fine and you can learn them. But I don't know, I kind of feel like I should change my name to like lazy LSAT. I don't think it's lazy LSAT. I think it's just like you want to make your cognitive load, meaning like how much information you have to carry. You want to make it at like as little as possible when you're on the test, because you need to do a lot of processing on the test. If you're trying to like classify every single question, or if you're trying to like, remember the term contrapositive, or trying to remember like the formulas for things, it just wastes time and it makes it more frustrating. But that's how I teach. I haven't had anyone complain. Never had any complaints, but that's just how I teach. Hi, Apples. What school do I not need LSAT? I do know some schools take the GRE. Yeah, right. That's smart. I do think Google is probably the better answer. Um, yeah. I also I know there's a new exam. I'm not recommending taking it, but you could look into it. I think it's called JD Next. One of my professors was talking about it, but I think only a handful of schools have accepted that. Um, but yeah, I would try Googling that. I think yeah. But that is a good question. And if you're liking this or if this helped, please like and please follow. I like coming up with LSAT explanations. So I post a lot to my profile. And let me know if you want to go over any of these. You guys have been good about asking them about them in the chat. And if you're joining for the first time, I am a third-year law student. I took the LSAT when I had logic games. Um, Sorry, I got distracted for a second. I took the exam and had logic games on it. I took it once and scored 170, and then I got a full tuition scholarship to a top 20 school, and now I'm in my last year of law school and I have one semester left. I've been tutoring the LSAT since I took it, and I really like tutoring it, but I just don't have that much time for it. So I'm figuring out, like, well, do people on TikTok need help with the LSAT? And it seems like they do. So if you're just joining, I'm doing a class on Saturday, class session. I'm going to go over section 2 of test 158, the logical reasoning section. So if you want to do it on your own, join us Saturday at 1 Eastern. I'm going to go over that and I'll be in like full tutor mode. You should be able to, I don't have better instructions than the live event is on my profile. I made it $5, but that's just because I'll be in like full tutor mode. But I still think that's pretty good for going over it with an LSAT tutor. Just because like I usually charge $100 to $180 an hour, which is actually like surprise not that much for LSAT tutoring. But I couldn't afford me now, and I couldn't afford me when I was studying. I just use the Power Score books. So if you're looking for a recommendation, I really like Power Score. Thank you, Ray. And thank you, M Loves. Yes, I'm very, very happy to already have my job because I'll be working at a firm in New York City next year. So I definitely won't have time for tutoring then. But I like doing LSAT things. I think it's not a if it's explained the right way or like explained in a way that makes sense to you, it's fun, I think. M Loves, that's so smart, and I'm glad that you decided that you like didn't feel comfortable because I think a lot of people are scared to make that decision. But it's so I mean, LSAT studying is so hard, and you're only on your timeline. You're not on anyone else's timeline. Now, I say that I'm 33. I know I sound like a 12-year-old. I'm gonna work. I'm thinking about investing in a better mic. I probably will. But I started law school when I was 30. So I definitely took my sweet time. So everyone's on their own timeline, and you should do it on your timeline and how it feels right. And there's no reason to rush. Like I feel sad when I get students who are on like their 4th time taking the LSAT, and then they're like, and then they do fine after me, and they're like, I wish I just met you first. And it's nothing they did wrong. It's just that I don't think enough people know it's okay to take a long time to study. Like I have some students that I tutor for a year, and that's usually because like they're working in an undergrad at the same time. That's really freaking hard to study for the LSAT when you do that. M Loves, I'm 38. I'm finally starting to pursue my dreams. Congratulations! I'm so happy. Yeah, when I told my friends that I was going to law school, like the ones I was growing up with, they all were like, finally, like you've been talking about it since middle school. So it's interesting how long it can take to get there, but it's always at the right time. What was I saying? Oh, studying for the LSAT is really, really stressful and really hard if you have other things going on. So, like, if I always feel really bad for my students who are in undergrad because it's just too hard. I mean, it's 100% doable, but you should be very kind to yourself if you're in undergrad and studying at the same time. Um, yeah, because it is not easy. Um, and then if you have any other responsibilities on top of that, like it's already hard. Um, for me, I was lucky because I mean not lucky, but I studied during like right during the when the pandemic hit from March to August of 2020. So there's nothing to do but to like just sit around and study. I mean, I did work full time, but I was tutoring remotely. Um, but that was like nothing. But I think also an important thing we don't talk about is like making sure you take care of yourself when you're studying for the LSAT, which means like you're stressed, but you have to make sure you want to make sure you get enough sleep. You want to make sure you're eating well. Like when I'm not saying I'm perfect. This is just what worked for me, and I don't know that it worked for me. I maybe I could have eaten horribly and done well too. But I didn't drink, like I didn't smoke when I was studying. Um, I made sure I worked out every day. I had very little stress in my life, like no drama. I really tried to like keep things as chill as possible because it takes a ton of energy. It literally takes, I don't think it burns calories. Maybe it does. Someone will have to look that up. But at least it burns energy for sure somehow. Um, that's why lawyers, like some lawyers, well, lawyers are like known for like not taking very good care of themselves, and it's because like it's so draining to have your brain think like this. Um, and if you're studying, you should look up because the LSAT actually they've done studies where it shows it studying for it changes your brain structure. It actually changes like your neuron pathways, so you're changing like the way that you think when you're studying for the LSAT. So like if your head hurts and you feel really frustrated and burn out sometimes, um, um, and that's completely normal and probably should be happening because that's the way that you know that you are like creating new pathways in your brain. In LSAT logic, you can use it anywhere. It's not just doesn't just apply to law. This is the logic of the world. So bring it to reading comprehension section. You want to bring it out in the world with you. Um, and I know lots of people say like you don't use LSAT stuff in law school. I don't know. I disagree with that, but whatever. Um, I 100% think it helps in law school. I mean, I was just studying with my friends for the evidence because I just finished classes last week. I was studying with my friends for evidence, and I just started. It became me just teaching the rules to them. Only it's not because I'm smarter. It's just because I've done the LSAT so much that it just stands out to me. Um, and actually, a lot of things in evidence LSAT is helpful for. Um, there's and I was talking with my dean of my school, and she was telling me about how the LSAT can, I'm not saying it always is, it can be um, the best or like a strong indicator of how you'll do on the bar. That doesn't mean whether you're past the bar, just how you'll do on it. And I 100% think that's true because in addition to the bar, they don't tell you this, but there's other exams you have to take. Um, one of them is a test that's just about like professional rules. So it's all about ethics and like they just give you a bunch of scenarios and multiple choice. You say what you have to do. You get 2 hours for this test. I was really sick and did not feel well. I finished. I'm finished it in 48 minutes. I forced myself to review for a few minutes, and then I left at 56 minutes. And I was really like, I don't know. I was pretty sure I did fine, but I didn't even take half the time. And I only got my score back like 2 weeks ago, and I had to get an 85, and I got a 105, which is crazy. I'm not saying that because I'm a genius. I'm just saying, like, none of this LSAT time is wasted time. It's like is helping and making you smarter. So, that's the only reason that I was saying that. Right. I think it was a little bit of luck too. I don't know how. I was very scared to open up that score because it's called the MPRE, and it's really just hit or miss. Most people say it's very easy. People will be like, you don't need to study. Um, then there's people you would expect to pass that don't. It's really just hit or miss. Um, I definitely thought that was going to be a miss because I did not get much sleep the night before because I was stressed because I thought I didn't study enough. Thank you guys. Thank you guys. Yeah, that was a little bit of a humble brag for me, but I just don't know how I did that. So I'm very happy about that. But I have been tutoring the LSAT for a long time, and there's nothing special about me that like makes me able to tutor the LSAT. I literally just like once I got my score back from when I took the test, I just decided I was an LSAT tutor, and now I'm an LSAT tutor. Um, and so definitely not anything special, just making decisions. Oh, thank you for the 4 cents for the diamonds. Oh, that's so exciting because I think I've only gotten one diamond so far. And I've done a lot of lives, so that's really exciting. Thank you guys. Now I'm looking at MPRE sample exams. They're actually really interesting, right? Because they're like, um, it's all about like, let's say someone tells you where they buried like the evidence, what do you have to do? And we'll just give you all of these like, let's say you get a settlement for a client, but their credit card collector says they actually are owed half the settlement. Like, what do you do? Yeah, and you take a whole class on professional responsibility. It is a very, very big deal in the legal field. Oh, yes, Ray. Thank you for asking that again. Yeah, it'll be live on TikTok. Yeah, I'm happy you purchased it. Um, yeah, I so I if it'll just be to be honest, I'm assuming you'll get a notification when it starts. I've never done it before, but I'm assuming that's how it works. But yeah, it'll be live on TikTok. Like just it'll be just like this, except a little bit more. I mean, more structured. I'll be full LSAT machine mode. And that's why I call it. I can't always call it LSAT machine. It's not gonna be long before I get like an email, I think, from someone being like, you need to stop calling yourself LSAT machine because of the name LSAT. Um, but for now, it's fine because I'm not claiming anything and I'm not a business or whatever. But anyway, why did I start saying all of that? Okay. Oh, um, I tell my students that they need to become like an LSAT machine um, when they're taking the LSAT or like a robot. And like by the time they're done, they're like, wow, you really do have to become a robot. And when I say that, I mean, you just need to learn the rules and need to apply the rules. So, like, no matter how long the sentence is, no matter if it's about some crazy technical thing or chemicals or history or politics or literature, even if you don't know the words, it doesn't matter. You just need to apply the rules. So, for example, like these sentences, if I gave you an if then, but my if was like all about chemicals and my then was like all about chemical reactions, you don't have to understand it. You just need to know the first part is a sufficient and the second part is a necessary. And if they flip those phrases, then you need to recognize that like those pieces are flipped. It doesn't matter if you understand what they actually mean. And so that's why I call it LSAT machine, because I'm always telling my students, like, you literally just need to become like a machine and a robot. And any frustration you feel, or like you're allowed to feel frustration, of course, but you can't let it stop you from improving. So, like, after you take a test, need to go back and review every single question, of course you can put it down and like come back the next day. I know the feeling of like not wanting to review after you've taken a test, but at some point you have got to come back to that test and look at the things you missed and then focus on the things you missed. That's the only way to improve, and there's like no secret. That's a secret. You have to admit your mistakes and be willing to like learn. And for some people that's fun, and for some people it's not. Ray, what about your paper though? I feel okay about my paper. My paper is due early January, which, okay, I guess that's only like 6 days away. But I actually think I finished my first draft tonight, so I feel okay. Technically, this was the paper I had the whole semester to write. So if you're just joining, and this isn't something you need to worry about now, but in your second and third years of law school, if you want to take a class or like get credit for something that's like less demanding than a class where you're with like lectures and an exam, you can do like an independent study or a research paper with a professor. And I just chose a professor that I got along with my first year, and I ended up taking all of her classes at our law school. And so I get 2 credits for like writing a paper, and she just has to like look it over. So that's one way. Ray, do you prefer that route? It really depends. This year I chose it because I'm doing clinic, and in law schools, clinic is where students have clients. So like instead of sitting in class, you get like 6 credits for work, for like you have an attorney, instructor, supervisor, and you just take clients and they supervise your work, and that's what you do all semester. You can also earn credits by just working out at a firm. So like you can have an externship. Some people do like a semester in practice. You can take classes where you do a presentation instead of a final exam. You can take research classes. There's a lot of different ways. I like to do a mix this semester. I only had 1 final exam. All the rest were papers, presentations, and clinic. And I liked that. But because a lot of my friends, a couple of my friends had 4 exams, and they were just like, why did I do this to myself? So it just depends. Okay, just met an attorney who offered an intern position. Oh, that's amazing. So that's nice to know. Yes, definitely. Yeah, 100% that's an option to do. That's great. Yeah, I have a few friends who did internships and externships. And the reason, like, and not that any of you have to think about this right now, but the reason that like choosing a variety of like classes helps is because you might know this, you might not, but like law school classes are curved. And the extreme example of that is like, let's say there's 4 people in the class. Like, one has to get an A, one has to get a B, one has to get a C, one has to get a D. So they could all technically like the person who gets a D could really only miss 4 questions and might get an A normally or a B, but because they were the bottom, they get the D. Now, it's not exactly like that in law school. That's very extreme. It's usually like 10%, it's like 10% get an A, like 30% get a B, and then like the professors can like 10% get B minus, and like you don't have to give out a C and D. So for every school, it's different. So Ray, it's not that extreme. Most schools make it so like most of the class gets B's, and then like 10% get A's, and 10% get like C's or B minuses, depending on the school. I don't know anyone who's gotten a D. Well, that's not true. I know one person who's gotten a D. Is D passing? I do not believe D is passing. But I actually don't know, Ray. I think it also might depend on the school. Yeah. The only person I know who got a D, it was because they only did half of the final exam, and the professor was like, I didn't have a choice. Um, oh, I just asked based off your example though. Yes, yes, sorry, right? In my example, D would be passing. You would pass, yeah. Um, yes, you would pass. Um, so no one has to fail. Um, and like in some schools, like they don't even have to give out lower than a B minus. I would say most schools B plus is where what most people get, and then like special people get A minus A, and a few people get lower grades. Um, and your first year is when it's the hardest. So, but those grades are also your most important, which I think is just brutal. Um, so when you come into law school, I've been telling like the advice I give to people coming into law school, because sometimes you'll want to study like the actual law, but I actually think it's way better to figure out how you're gonna take your notes and study for your exams and prepare for them. And I say that because law school exams, most of them are open book, which sounds great, but you have like 500, 700 pages in your book, sometimes more. And then you also have, we don't have to, but this is like what people do. You create a study guide from your notes. And some professors, they'll be like, you have a 40-page limit on your study guide. And you guys, it's hard to get it down to 40 pages sometimes. It's just so much information. And so I hate open book exams because it's so much prep to get ready for, because you want to make sure that your study guide is very organized. Like you'll make a table of contents for it. You'll make like a cheat sheet page for it, because you want to make sure you can reference it really quickly when you're taking the exam. I hate it. Um, so if you can research online, um, like just, I don't know, see how other people set up their studying, what advice they give, um, think about what would work best for you, and also how to, we call the study guide an outline. The smart thing and the like gold standard is to start your art outline on like the first week of school. So like create your study guide throughout the semester. But for me, I learn better when I'm doing the study guide. So I'll do my outline in like 3 weeks of end of the semester. Usually I regret it because it's really annoying, and I always wish I got to practice with it and never have enough time to practice with it. So, all that being said, is just do some research on like how you're going to keep your notes organized, because it's not just one class, it's going to be 4 or 5 classes you're trying to do that for. It's a lot. So, if you're trying to learn the material and like stay prepared, um, it's hard to do. But if you at least come in with a system that will work for you, then at least you do know how you're going to stay organized. And I I absolutely think the people who got A's, because I got some A's my first year, but did not get as good grades as I wanted. And it's 100%. I think if I had a plan, it would have been better, because I changed the way I took notes like 4 times throughout the semester. And before I figured out a way that worked for me, I wish I had looked into it earlier and looked at how other people do it and came up with a way. Um, right, yes, you definitely need the outline study guide. Yeah. And it is my least favorite part. I love closed book exams in law school. Most people don't, but I just prefer to memorize. But also a lot, like when you get into law school, people will um people will um share their outlines with you. So most of the time you don't have to start from scratch. Um, I've gone over some of the answers. Um, I've gone over some of the answers. Um, I think I went over 1 and 2. Um, but I'll go over some of them in just a second. Anything you can do pre-law to prepare, I would definitely say, Ray, is the figuring out how you're gonna take notes. And that means um, like learning about how, like, just researching, note taking. I know that sounds silly, but like you need to come up with a system, like, because the professor will have a PowerPoint, the professor will also speak. There'll also be a book. The book has writing in it with the author's opinions. It also has cases in it, like the judge's opinions and the court's opinions. You are responsible for combining all of that into knowledge for the exam. So the reason I keep talking about like organizing notes is because you want to come up with a schedule. Like some people will at the end of the week go through all of the PowerPoints from like their teachers' classes and take notes on them. Do you want to review your notes every day? Um, it makes it makes um it makes a lot of difference if you have a plan for how you're going to organize all of that. Ray, you love reading case law, then you will love first year because you do so much case law. Um, does an engineering major have a sway in the admissions process? Yes, if you are an engineer major or science major, oh my gosh, you'll get snatched up. You won't have any problem. I'm not even kidding. Like you will not have a problem finding a job. Um, there's like, I mean, for patent law, you have to have an engineering. You almost have to have an engineering scientific background to even be able to do it. Um, so like there's having a scientific background. Um, I mean, I'm stumbling over my words because it's just so advantageous. So yeah, 100%. If you talk about combining like your engineering or like scientific background with laws, however, yeah, because it's so rare and we need more of it. Um, yeah, and like I know a lot of engineers who are like engineers by career and then like switch to law later in life. So yeah, 100%. Um, yeah, I just did a presentation with like two engineer people who were engineers in undergrad. ASO Can UI. I don't know what that was, but I do want to go over these because I said I would. So for the first one, to attend the Christmas party, you must bring a gift. So you want to think about what is necessary. For number one, the necessary condition is bringing a gift. Attending the Christmas party is sufficient. Yeah, that's perfect. So, and the reason that's important is because the sufficient condition tells you everything. If I tell you, ASO, that I went to the Christmas party, you know I brought a gift. I don't have to tell you that. You know it. If I tell you I brought a gift, I might not have been on the guest list for the party. You don't know that I actually attended. So the necessary condition by itself doesn't really mean anything. And that's a big difference between the two. Bye, Ray. I'm glad that you came. I'm excited to see you at the review. Number 2, anyone who works on Christmas Day receives holiday pay. So if I were to turn this into an if-then, I'd probably do if they work on Christmas Day, then they receive holiday pay, which makes holiday pay, or rather receiving holiday pay, the necessary condition, and making working on Christmas Day the sufficient condition. So if I tell you I worked on Christmas Day, you know that's sufficient for you to know that I got holiday pay. But if I just tell you I got holiday pay, that doesn't mean it was for Christmas. It could be for any other holiday. The necessary condition does not tell you anything by itself. The sufficient condition tells you the whole story. And if this is helpful, please like and please follow. And if you're just joining, I'm a third-year law student. I took the LSAT in 2020. When it had logic games on it, I took it once and scored 170 and got a full tuition scholarship to a top 20 school. And now I'm in my third year of law school. Hi, Perfect. I love tutoring the LSAT, but just don't have as much time for it. So I'm trying out some TikTok things. And if you're joining on Saturday at 1, I'm going to Eastern. I'm going to go over section 2 of test 158 from Law Hub. And I don't have better instructions than it's on my profile, the live event. But if you want to take section 2 before Saturday and then review it, I've been telling people that that's a good idea to do. ASO, so necessary. So this one is tricky, ASO. So for number 2, receiving holiday pay is necessary. Working on Christmas Day is sufficient. And that reason is, if I were to turn 2 into an if-then, it would be, if they work on Christmas Day, then they receive holiday pay. So if I tell you I worked on Christmas Day, that's sufficient to know I got holiday pay. But holiday pay is the necessary. If I tell you I got holiday pay, you don't know for what holiday. So it doesn't tell you anything. But if I tell you I worked on Christmas, then you know that I got holiday pay. Yeah, great job, ASO. All right, guys. Well, this was so fun. I wanted to, I definitely recommend taking a screenshot of this. And if you have a question about one, you can DM me. But it'd be good practice, I think. Perfect. I know you just joined. I'm so sorry. But I'm going to, oh my gosh, it's already late for me. But I hope you guys had a great Christmas. And like I said, definitely come to the live on Saturday. I'll be in like full tutor mode, and we'll go over section 2 of test 158. Okay, all right. I'll look at my DMs. Perfect. I gotta get better about scheduling my lives. I'll do it for you. Okay. All right, guys. If you're coming to the one on Saturday, I'll see you then, and have a good night and Merry Christmas. Happy holidays. Bye, guys.